In this video, I'm going to be working on my 1978 Honda Twin Star. I picked up this bike on Craigslist for cash from a local seller. It hasn't run in a number of years, but it has 2,800 miles. I believe he owned it for about 5 years. Never had it running. So my plan is, in this video, is to give it a good once-over and get it running again. Let's take a little closer look at the parts I bought for the bike. In case you're interested, all of these parts I've purchased from Amazon. So if you're interested in buying these parts, I've included the links in the comments below. First things first, I know for a fact the battery in this bike is completely dead and looks terrible, so I picked up this Yowza battery from Amazon. So one thing about this battery, it turns out that Amazon doesn't ship acid with unsealed batteries. So I had to buy that separately from a local auto parts store. But since this was a 6-volt battery, I didn't have a charger for 6 volts. I also picked up this Battery Buddy charger from Amazon as well. So that should get the job done for a little 6-volt battery. I also went ahead and picked up an air filter. This is an original Honda air filter, also available on Amazon. And although I wasn't really sure on the condition, I also picked up 2 new NGK plugs just to make sure that the spark plugs aren't an issue. I would assume that these are probably original plugs and they're probably fouled. So it didn't hurt to replace them, even though the bike only has 2,800 miles on it. Probably most important is I'm going to be doing an oil change. I picked these up also from the local parts store. Okay, so since unboxing videos are like cool or something, I thought it'd be cool to do an unboxing video of this sweet Yowza battery. So let's take a look here. Alright, there's the battery. It says Yowza on the front. It is the correct battery. And manual, won't need that. The limited warranty in many languages. And the connectors and a little tube. Okay, let's unbox this acid while we're at it. Ooh, look at this neat little tube, and there's our acid. Okay, let's fill the battery up. We're going to put acid in the battery. It's pretty straightforward, but like anything else, you could probably die doing this, so don't be an idiot. All we're doing is putting acid in this battery until it's between the lower and upper level. The first thing you want to do, make sure your battery's on a level ground. On the back, there's a little vent that you want to just remove the vent seal from to allow air to escape. If that's on there, when you try to put in the acid, the battery will, let's just say the acid will come back out. Okay, so we're going to pop these off. I always like to put them on top of the battery to not contaminate them. So they say you're supposed to let the acid sit in the battery for half an hour to let a chemical reaction occur before charging it. So I'm going to wait half an hour and then hook it up to the charger. Alright, my Yowza batteries had about half an hour to sit. It's time to unbox my sweet Battery Buddy. So here we go. Looks like you get 2 clamp connectors, 2 screw-ons, and the charger. And it looks like it's an auto-detecting 6-volt, 12-volt charger with a standard plug on one end. So let's plug this thing in. So I've decided to use the traditional clamps with the charger. I've got it plugged in right now. As you can see, it's got a little green light that indicates it's on. So, alright. Light's red, so I guess the battery's charging. While I wait, I'm going to go ahead and pop the old battery out. It was a yacht battery, which will be replaced with the Yowza. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the air filter. while I'm taking the side panels off, which comes in this little nifty sock. See what it is. It's a little sock style filter. Okay, so looks like this panel comes off right here. Alright, there's our filter right there, just tucked underneath the seat. This little clamp holds the filter in, and then this filter probably, there we go, it lives on a little cone inside of the air box. Looks like I've got, here we go. So this should just slide off of here. Well, it's soaked in gas, unfortunately, but it looks okay. Well, we're replacing it anyway, since we're in here. Right. I'll put this back in. Underneath the hose, like so. Let's see, do that on a bike today. There we go. I'm also replacing the spark plugs with the OEM C7HSA spark plugs. Now, the factory calls for NGKs. In my experience, NGKs are really high quality spark plugs. Even though these are probably original, they're probably fine, but I figured why not risk it and go ahead and replace them. I've seen some pretty nasty NGKs still fire an engine, so I figured why not just do them. Okay, according to the Honda service manual, the plugs need to be gapped between 0.6 and 0.7. I just happen to have 0.635, which works. So a real quick check in the gap on the plug. Looks good. Check the other one while we're at it. And it looks good. Actually looks pretty good. Looks like your typical maybe run lean, run rich look that you get from a carbureted motor, but that would probably still fire. Always remember with an aluminum head to never over tighten. That's good. Not in there real tight, but usually these aren't super tight in a air-cooled aluminum head. Yeah, it looks in good shape here too. This is an auto light, so one side had the factory NGK, the other has an auto light for some reason. This is why you change your spark plugs. Onto the oil. So I decided to go with a Castrol GTX 1030 oil. Pretty simple oil. Should be good for the bike in a colder weather riding between winter and spring, because I do plan to take this out as soon as it's not snowing. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't get a oil filter. Well, that's because this bike doesn't have a traditional oil filter that we're used to. It has a small oil screen that's held behind this cover. So I've decided to not remove the screen because I didn't want to pull the engine apart to get to it. Although it's supposed to be cleaned every 8,000 miles. I think since the bike only has 2,800 and so far things are looking pretty clean, it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to clean that screen out. Okay, the book calls for 1.5 quarts. So that's what she's going to get. Well, would you look at that? My battery's charged. Light's green. Green means go. Alright, before I put the battery back in, I'm going to hit all the connectors with a little steel wool here, just to make sure we get good contacts. Notice there's a little corrosion on the positive terminal here. Always remember to reconnect the breather hose, like so. Alright, let's see if we've got power. Yeah, definitely. Got a headlight. See if I can shift into neutral. Yeah, there's neutral. Okay, so the previous owner drained the tank, which is good. But now I've got to put some gas back in it. Fortunately, I've got what looks like maybe just under a gallon left from starting the CX500. So hopefully this is enough to put us into business. Alright, so that probably wasn't even close to enough fuel, so I'm just going to go ahead and borrow a little bit. I'm sure when I start this thing in the spring, I'm going to wonder why it doesn't run. And then I'm going to remember that I siphoned all the gas out of it. That should do it. Okay, we've got charged battery, new plugs, new oil, gas in the tank. The only thing that really could be worrying at this point are the carbs, if they're gummed up or anything like that. Since I love kick-starting, we're going to fire up with the old Kickstarter. For some reason, the battery just died. Oh! What's happened here is, I noticed this before, but someone's just got a fuse hanging in here, in this little fuse container. And what's happening is it's coming loose. I think the tube fuse that was in here was just faulty. So I'm going to go ahead and replace it with another one. And surprisingly, this looks like what they had from the factory. Might have been a different non-glass fuse, but I'm going to go ahead and replace this and try it again. Alright, I've got a new fuse connected in there. I'm going to go ahead and just use the electric start to kick this thing over. I'm thinking that that Kickstarter is probably not going to do me any justice, considering this bike hasn't run in forever. So let's get the fuel on here. Power up. Just a little bit of choke. It's really cold out here, so I wonder if this thing isn't going to run. Okay, I'm going to end this video here. The good news is the bike powers up, it turns over. I can definitely smell a little fuel coming through the engine, and it definitely sounds like I've got spark. So all of the necessary functions are in order, but I think it's just a little too cold out here today. It's probably just over 40 out here in the garage, and I know for a fact it's in the teens outside with some pretty high winds. So I'm thinking this bike's just going to fight me as long as it's this cold out here. I'm going to try to fire this bike back up in a few days when it's warmer out, and I'm looking forward to getting this thing out on the road. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.